All right, what's going on, fitness family? I'm your host, Gene, the wedding coach. Never miss a Monday workout. We are live each and every Monday, 8:30 p.m., empowering your fitness journey one episode at a time. And I'm super excited. We have an amazing guest, Mike Doehla. He's going to be talking about the myth of nutrition. Got tons of questions for him. So let's bring Mike in right now and let's get the show started.
Oh man,
Mike,
we're live.
we are live. All right. So before we get started, I just want to let the audience know there's only 62 days left until the end of the year. You still got time to crush your goals. Not much time though. Okay, so I know a lot of you came into 2023. You had all of these goals. 62 days left. Really excited to have Mike Doehla live with us today. We're going to be talking about the myth of nutrition. Mike, I'm truly grateful to have somebody of your caliber on the show. Okay, and and like I said to you last week, you will be a frequent guest. Okay, so before we jump into the interview, if you would please uh, let the audience know who you are and your background when it comes to nutrition. Okay, let's just lay out the facts. No, they're getting the information from a reputable source.
Yeah, so the quick backstory, certified NASM fitness nutrition, precision nutrition, started a company called Stronger You Nutrition, helped people around the world. I actually sold the business in 2021 and have since retired to just be dad and work on my own stuff. But yeah, I helped about 50,000 people. We helped everyone from everyday worker outers like the fellows and ladies at Orange Theory, CrossFitters, general fat loss, health, anyone that you could imagine. We even helped a few celebrities. I'm not allowed to talk about it. But yeah, everybody in between. If you can imagine a person, we helped people like that. We had a team of over 100 people, registered dietitians and certified nutrition coaches led by PhDs. So it was a fun journey. Then we helped lots of people. So happy to share what I know.
All right. So Mike, Stronger You made a major impact in the nutrition industry, I would say. And how did you come about coming up with Stronger You?
Yeah, so I'm like many of the clients, whereas I didn't really know what to do for a very long time. I would get tricked into every new shiny ball in the nutrition space that was telling me it was going to fix whatever issue I wanted to fix. So I started looking around and thinking that like the information is out there, but it wasn't packaged up right. So I wanted to take the nutritional science that was legit and sound, and I wanted to package it up with how I think people needed to be served in this industry. You know, a lot of stuff out there is like, here's the information, go do it. And then people struggle because there's no accountability. Just like why Orange Theory is so great, like you're working out with other people. If someone has to work out by themselves, it's not, depending on the person, it's not usually going to go as well. So I wanted to reverse engineer the dieting process, think of not only what people need to do, but how do they do it and provide all those solutions. So um, probably sounds a lot more fancy than it was. It was pretty straightforward, but we were just good at getting people to do what they needed to do. That was pretty much it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Mike, first question I have for you: how important is nutrition when it comes to your overall fitness journey? Regardless if you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, competition, how important is nutrition?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that it's super important, right? Like, no matter what your goal is, if it's fat loss, if it's muscle building, if it's just performance to do endurance, like you need to be fed enough. And I think that's the challenge that people have is they don't know how much they need. And then when they do find it, they don't know how to implement a personalized eating plan for that goal. So like fat loss, you got to eat in a caloric deficit for at least a little while. Muscle building, you need enough protein and enough calories and the right workouts. Endurance, you might need to worry about timing carbohydrates and protein and fats at certain times. So I think it goes without saying that it's one of the most important things. I think that was really my step into the nutrition field because I came in as a trainer. I
Mm,
knew people needed the nutrition because when they were working hard with me and not seeing results, whatever those results were, it was always because their
mm,
food. So I
mm.
wanted to handle that. So I like to say the workouts are like 4% of the day. It's about an hour. The nutrition stuff with the lifestyle stuff, it's like the other 96%. So that's what it is.
And why in your professional opinion, why do people struggle with the nutrition?
Man, I mean, how much time do we got, right? I mean, it's like it's biology. It's our brains and our bodies encourage us to eat because survival is the most important thing for humans. So when you're living in the current food environment that is surrounded by delicious foods everywhere, and they're easier to get than ever,
Mm,
we're going to struggle with that. And we think that when we work out hard, we offset like extra calories and like it turns out the workouts aren't that great of an impact for fat loss if you aren't eating well enough for it.
mm.
So I mean, we could talk like 6 hours about this stuff, but that's the biggest thing is I think there's just so many subconscious influences around us, and it makes you realize why it's so hard for people because we're programmed to eat, and we're living in a world that isn't programmed to help us eat well. Yeah.
So great answer. Uh, I wanted to follow it up with.
Mhm.
I guess people aren't eating enough, right? Is that?
I would say most people are eating enough. They're just eating too much of the stuff that doesn't have that many nutrients
Mm,
or high satiety, so they're very hungry all the time. So that's a very common thing that we hear. Like, I want to lose fat, but I'm not eating enough. And we say, hold the phone. That's actually not what happens. What happens is you eat more than enough, you just don't realize where those calories are coming
mm,
from. So that's what like our coaches at the company were so good at. And it's like it's the typical stuff like it's like oil on stuff, it's a couple meals out, it's alcohol, it's mindless snacking, it's thinking you're eating chicken breast, but it's actually like chicken tenders. So it's like these things that people just accidentally overeat. And again, it's not necessarily everybody's fault because it's hard to find these
mm.
things. I call them the usual suspects. These things just like show up and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize. So that's why I'm big on having people track food for at least a little while to uncover some of that stuff.
Well, let's talk about tracking a little bit because I'll be honest. I've used the MyFitnessPal and
Yeah.
uh, other apps, and I guess the challenge for me is just inputting my food. Like
Yeah.
it's another thing I gotta do, right? It's not sexy. I'm gonna put it to you
No,
that.
no.
What advice do you have when it comes to people that's struggling with tracking
Yeah.
food?
I'll be very straight up and say tracking food is probably going to solve one of the biggest problems you have in your life, which is knowing how much you eat or how to hit the goal that you've probably wanted to hit for a long time. So at some point, we have to suck it up and we have to do the things we don't want to do to get where we want to
Mm,
go. We don't always want to brush our teeth. We don't always want to do our laundry. We don't always want to walk the dog. We don't want to make the kids lunch, but we do these things because the benefit it provides is huge. So
mm,
that's the thing with tracking is like, I get that people don't want to do it, but if you have a problem that is solved with tracking, I'm going to encourage you to try it and do it for long enough to get the result and then learn how to wean off it. You don't have to track forever. I don't track a damn thing, but I tracked for a little
mm.
while. I can look at food and I know about what's in it. And if I want to, if I want to get a little bit more precise, I'll do it again, but you don't have to do it forever. And that's what I want people to realize. Like tracking might not be forever. So just do it as long as you need to do to learn the challenge.
And what app would you recommend? to the audience?
I am, full disclosure, not affiliated with any apps. So I think MyFitnessPal is like the most popular. However, I think they charge for a lot of the features that they used to not charge. Chronometer is another one. It's like Crometer or something. There's a ton of like tracking apps out there now. And I think there's one macro factor is like an automated like application,
Mhm.
which is great, run by some of the smartest people in the field. So that's another one that I think is probably pretty good.
All right, thanks for that, Mike. So, what are some common misconceptions about carbohydrates and how they impact our health?
Yeah, a lot of people are very scared of carbs. But and personally, I always love this question or this statement when someone says, I just carbs always make me gain weight or make me unhealthy or whatever. And I say, well, what kind of foods are you talking about when you say carbs? And people often say cookies, chips, pizzas, pastas. And I say, well, what else is in those foods? A lot of calories from fat. So it's not just the carb, it's the fat. So the problem that people face is they misclassify food as carbs
Mm,
and they blame carbs for all the problems when it's not carbs, it's too many calories that people ingest and they just misclassify the carbs. So at my peak and many people that we worked with, we're eating hundreds of grams of carbs a day, talking about three, four, five bagels worth of carbs. Like it is not the carbs, but there are people out there that are saying your problem is because of carbs. If you reduce carbs, you'll be healthier. So what do people do? They don't just reduce the white rices and the vegetables and the fruits. They cut out all those other foods I mentioned, which are super high calorie. So
mm.
it's not the carbs, it's the calories. This has been debated since the dawn of time. From the research I know and my experience is it is not the carbs, it is just too many calories. So I feel bad for carbs getting picked on all the time.
So, what are some good carbs?
I mean, I like to think that any carb is good. It's fine. Like I'm part owner of a local pasta shop. I'm all about carbs. I just don't think that people should look at them necessarily as good or bad. But to answer your question, like the vegetables, the fruits, things like that are probably if you're going to build a meal plan and you need to hit a certain amount of carbs, those are probably where you want to go. But if we're talking about endurance athletes, and this is probably controversial to some people, but some of the best things an endurance athlete can do is eat candies during a race, like simple sugars that they're going to digest quickly. Now, that's not the best advice for someone that's trying to lose fat and who doesn't have that many calories to eat a day. I don't want them eating like Swedish fish or gummy bears,
Hmm.
but someone like me, if I'm trying to, I don't know, perform my best and I have 3,000 calories a day to work with, I'm going to have some lower quality foods to just get that energy in. And I'll make up for it with the other higher quality foods around that.
So, Mike, let's back up a little bit.
Hmm.
People gain weight because they're consuming too many calories
Yeah.
and working out to burn those calories off.
Yeah, I would say their lifestyle. I wouldn't necessarily say the workout itself, but the lifestyle is the biggest part. And a lot of people work out very hard. We had a lot of clients that would, they'd do Orange Theory or they'd ride a Peloton or they would lift and they would do it for an hour a day, every single day, and they would work hard, but they would have trouble losing weight a lot of times just because they ate a little bit too many calories and they sat a lot. And that's one of the biggest things now you're seeing in like the health and wellness space is like get up off your seat, go for a walk. And a lot of people don't think that's that impactful, but it is because it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's a fancy way of saying general movement. So general movement for most people, other than secondary to basal metabolic rate, is the second biggest calorie burner of the day. So that's how impactful general movement is. So a lot of people are getting 2, 3, 4, 5,000 steps a day. I would try to bump that up 7, 8, 9, 10,000 if you can. And I know it's not easy all the time, but that 1 hour workout and then eating kind of whatever, it's not going to go well if you don't move like generally all day.
So, as a society, we're not moving. We're spending 8, sometimes 12 hours a day sitting down behind a desk. So what would you recommend to somebody that has a
Yeah.
sedentary job? How can and that's working out an hour a day? How else can they, like, how can they bump up
Yeah.
the steps to 10,000 instead
Right.
of the 7?
This is a good question because it's not easy, right? If I just tell all these people to go for walks, they're like, "Hey, I have to commute to work. I have a kid. I have to drive home. I have to do all this stuff." So it's like little things where like hourly, you could make sure you get up, set an alarm, and go walk for 5 minutes. Maybe you do, I don't know, every day you have a phone call with your mother, your father, or something. Go walk. I call it walk and talk. Like pick up the phone and go walk around. And a lot of people, like a lot of our old clients and coaches, were getting walking treadmills under their desk.
Wow.
It's all these little things, and then just getting up, like you just have to be conscious of it, just like anything. Because if you're not, it's very easy to just get very few steps a day. And I want to just emphasize too that a lot of people don't think it's impactful because they're not exerting themselves like they are in a workout.
Mm.
But it doesn't matter. You're still moving and you're still like revving the engine.
So, so Mike, I know I keep going back because you keep
That's
dropping
it.
golden
Yeah.
nuggets. So somebody could be doing an intense workout at OTF and they're still not losing weight because they're not eating properly. Can you elaborate
Yeah.
on that a little bit?
So eating properly is it's hard to define. So people that go to Orange Theory, work out really hard and don't lose weight and who want to lose weight are probably just eating too many calories and maybe not burning enough during the day. So you
Mm.
have someone, for example, they go to Orange Theory, maybe they burn 500 calories. They're like, "Cool, I busted my butt." And psychologically, they're like, "Okay, now I can maybe eat I can get some French fries at McDonald's, or I can eat the cupcake at the office."
Mm.
So that potentially could have wiped that out. Plus, you're already burning calories during that time, even if you didn't work out. So it's not 500 extra calories. And now it's like everyone has to kind of visualize a math problem. It's maybe 300 net calories because just existing and walking around town for that hour, if you didn't work out, is burning 200
Mm.
calories, say. And then there's this thing, it's called the constrained model of energy expenditure, which means if you work out really hard, again, we're just these like evolved beings that try to survive at all costs with down regulation of movement and up regulation of appetite. So what happens when we bust our butt at Orange Theory or any workout is sometimes our body subconsciously will move less to offset the calorie burned. Because in nature, calories burned is potential death. Now we know we're safe, we got food, we're okay. But our brain doesn't know the environment we're in. So when we do these hard workouts and we burn extra calories, our brain and our body says, "Whoa, I need to replenish." And then what do? We replenish too much. We overfill the cup and then we hold on to excess body
Mm.
fat or gain it. And it's very common to see. I mean, we had a ton of like Peloton riders bust their butt every day, couldn't lose weight. They got on the plan or got on any good nutrition plan and they went for walks and they just magic, like magic. So, yeah.
So speaking generally, now I know it's difficult, okay,
Yeah.
because everybody's body type is
Yep.
different and age and all these different
Yep.
things. Somebody that's doing an intense workout at Orange Theory or Peloton or CrossFit, what should they be doing immediately after the workout?
So there's a common misconception about protein timing within like the workout window. So they used to refer to it as the anabolic window. It seems as though it's a lot longer than people used to think. So even my protein that I buy tells me you better consume at least 30 grams immediately after your workout. You don't have to rush to do that. Obviously, if people do that, they're probably more likely to get the protein in, after time. If you wait another hour or two, maybe you forget. But the metabolic or anabolic window, it's probably about 2 hours. So after a hard workout, again, generally speaking, protein and carbs, limited fat, limited fiber, and I say limited fat and limited fiber because fiber and fat slow down digestion.
Mm.
And the goal of that post-workout nutrition, and again, not immediately after, you don't have to go crazy running through parking lots chugging protein. Um, it could be the meal after that, the fiber and fat slow digestion, and you want to shuttle the nutrients from the protein and carbs into the bloodstream as fast as possible um, when you're in that window. So it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It could be 2 hours. Total during the day is the most important thing.
So total calories during the day is really what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Now, what would you recommend for somebody to like pre-workout, right? I got Orange Theory and Earl CrossFit and the I know it's going to be an intense workout. What would you recommend we consume?
Yes. It's hard to say. I'm not a huge fan of the pre-workouts because I think they could leave people pretty jittery. They can cause some dependencies. Not that these things are necessarily bad for you. It's very little amount. Um, so that's something people have to kind of decide for themselves. Like if I would work out, if I would go there at 9 o'clock, I'd just have coffee and I'd be good. A good night's sleep and coffee. That's like my ideal pre-workout. Now I know, especially a parent of two little kids who ruin our nights with their sleep sometimes. Like you want a little pick me up. So there's stuff like C4. I'm not even sure what's on the market now, but you might need it, you might not. I just like to encourage people like ask your like push back on your mindset because your mind might be like, I'm so tired, I'm gonna have a crappy workout. Like push back on that and
Mm.
pretend you don't hear it, and you're probably gonna be okay. And then you're not gonna have to spend more money on a supplement maybe you don't need.
Well, I'll say this, Mike. Before I do a workout, like I know I need to fuel my body,
Yeah.
right? In order to really like to be able to complete the workout, um, I don't want to say correctly, but just be able to get through a workout, especially this week when we have Hell Week at
Yeah, yeah.
OTF. In general, um, I know I'm going to be burning at least 700 to 800 calories,
Yeah.
and it's almost like to me, I look at it as fuel. Like I got to fuel
Yeah.
my body for what I'm about to put it through, and regardless if you use a pre-workout or not, like sometimes
Yeah.
I have like apples.
Yeah.
Is like I try to put some good carbs in my body. Is that a misconception?
So
Or
I'll be a little confusing to people because, right, food is fuel, at least it's part of it. We think that when we eat it, we absorb it and we crank out energy and we perform well. The interesting thing is digestion usually takes quite a long time. So, and this is especially important for people at like the 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. classes, especially if their goal is fat loss, because you have to think if someone's goal is fat loss, they get less food than someone who's that version of that person whose goal isn't fat loss. So you want to spend that money, right? That those calories wisely. If you were to eat right before the workout, you're spending some of your daily budget, but you're not even going to absorb those calories yet because your body didn't have enough time to process them. So
mm.
the workouts in the morning are usually fueled by the lunch or dinner the night before,
Say it
not the
one more
morning.
time, Mike. Just
Yeah.
say it one more time for the people.
Yes. So it's a little confusing, right? But the lunch and the dinner the day before your workout, an early workout, is what's going to fuel you, not the meal that morning. And this is like good news for people when like we had clients that were like, I work out at 5 a.m. What do I eat before? And people traditionally would say, wake up at 4:30 and eat some oatmeal and a banana and a protein shake. And I said, well, now you're just going to work out sloshing around,
Yes.
feeling like crap. What if you understood how the digestion works and realized that your body, your muscles, your liver provide glycogen? You have fuel on reserves to fuel that workout. And this is where the mindset comes in because we all say, oh, I didn't eat, aka I didn't get my fuel. Therefore, I'm not going to have enough energy for my workout. I would tell people, screw that mindset. You are packed with energy from the day before. Just show up and kick butt. You don't
Mm.
have to worry about that meal because now you're just going to slosh around and you're going to have less food to eat later. Don't you want to eat more food later? Probably, because if you're up at 5 a.m. working out, you probably woke up at 4:30. You're going to bed, I don't know, whatever time. You're going to get hungry later. I want you to have those calorie dollars to spend later. You got me all excited. over here. I love this.
Well, Mike, I gotta tell you, I had a personal experience. I was taking 330 classes. We have the
Yeah,
express 330, and I would eat I would have a salad, like a chicken salad,
yeah,
and I would have it at like 1 o'clock or 12.
yeah,
Then I do the workout and I feel sluggish, and I'm
yeah,
like, why do I feel like this? And from doing the research, I realized that my body is not breaking down the protein,
yeah.
and so I started, and this is crazy. I started to eat my lunch at like 10 o'clock,
Mm,
right, or 11 at the latest, because I know on Wednesday when I take this 330, if I eat after 11, I'm not going to be good. So how
yeah,
long does it take the body to actually break down food? And I would imagine it's different for
yeah.
what you eat, right?
Yeah, it depends on the macronutrient and it also depends on the food type. Like steak will be different than, like the protein in steak will be different than protein in whey protein powder. But generally speaking, like if you're going to eat before a workout, I would always tell people at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before to let it at least leave the stomach. And now the GI tract is complicated, mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So it's got to go through multiple different steps. But as long as it's out of the stomach within probably max like 2 hours, most foods, you'll probably be okay. But then total absorption could take 3, 4, 12 hours, depending on what it is. So it's constant. And this is kind of the whole thing about like protein post workout. Like if you ate protein within a few hours before, you're still digesting it. You're still getting the benefits from the meals before. Oh,
So, what shouldn't I know this is a crazy
yeah,
question, but what I guess shouldn't you eat before a workout? Like
yeah,
obviously for me, I know like the chicken or the really dense
yeah,
protein is a no go for me. And
yeah,
because it's longer to break down, I would imagine my body's using energy to break it down, so I
yeah.
can't use it in a
Yes,
workout.
you actually brought up a good point. The thermic effect of food is like protein has the highest thermic effect of food, which means the body spends a lot of not a lot of calories, but more calories than other nutrients to break that down and absorb it. So that's like the fourth way to burn calories in the body, thermic effect of food. So interesting point you accidentally brought up there. But usually it's what not to do is the harder to digest foods right before workouts. So something like the meats and mostly fat and fiber. So you know how I said don't have that after workout? Don't have it before either because fat and fiber, that salad you had was probably high fiber. That could be the culprit why you didn't feel great during your workouts because
Mm.
that made everything digest slower. So, personal story of mine, I went for a deadlift PR one time after eating peanut butter. I was full of peanut butter. I ruined it. I blew it. It's in your stomach. It's not digesting. You're sloshing around longer. So, fat and fiber slows digestion. So,
So
always think that.
since you brought up the PR, okay,
Yeah.
we do have a PRs at
Yeah.
OTF, 500-meter benchmark, 2,000-meter benchmark. We got the tread block. So when we have these benchmark days, right? Or I'll just call them benchmark days.
Yeah.
You wouldn't recommend eating no fat. That's so crazy
Yeah. It
because
just, I mean, it's easy to think about though, right? If it slows digestion and you eat, you're not absorbing that food, so it's going to sit in your stomach longer. When you have food in your stomach and you're working out, it's not fun. It is not a good
yeah.
time. Yeah.
But I've always heard, like, listen, you gotta fuel your body before the workout. Oh, you're gonna be running a marathon. Oh, you gotta eat the
Right.
oatmeal, bananas, and you
Well, this
know,
is where it gets hard because everything. There's so much nuance to nutrition. You can't just say fuel your body. Like, what does that mean, right? For you, it means something different than this person and that person. So that's why these talks are important because you give people like me the opportunity to explain like what fuel your body means. Easy digesting protein and carbs, cool, do it. Peanut butter, nuts, steak, salads, like no, don't have that before workouts. Yeah.
Good to
You'll
know.
make a mess. Yeah.
Good to know. Um, are there specific fats that are beneficial for our health, and what are the myths surrounding dietary
Yeah.
fats?
So, I'll hit the myth first. The myth of like the 90s, I think, and we're still feeling it, is like fat is what makes people put on body fat. It's actually not. It's no single macronutrient, no single food. It's like we talked about, excess calories, which could be a mix of anything, plus being sedentary and not moving around like we used to. So there's still a lot of misconceptions like, oh, low fat is better. Not necessarily. You know, if you want to save calories, cool, get the low fat yogurt or the low fat milk over whole milk. In terms of health, it still seems like there's a lot of debate about it, but saturated fats are probably a little bit more unhealthy than unsaturated fats.
Give me
Things that are
an example.
solid at room temperature. So like animal fats, the butters, things like that. Like olive oil, avocado is good, is like a healthy fat. Nuts, seeds, fatty fish. Those are the healthier versions of fats. But these are things that most people like. If you're talking health, always talk to your doctor about what they say. They'll probably suggest similar. Um, it's probably not something everyone has to overthink. Like if you're going tomorrow and you're going to eat something, you're like, oh, well, Mike said saturated fat might be worse. Don't get too caught up in all that stuff because you're going to want to have some cheese and you're going to want to have some beef and stuff like that. Just don't have too much of that stuff where you overeat your allotted calories that you need. So.
So we get back to the allotted calories, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Everything, and I'm a broken record, everything starts with that. That is the like master of like health and nutrition. The problems we see today are because people eat more calories than they ever have and they move less than they ever have. And that is not advice that I'm saying everyone just needs to eat less and move more. That's just how it works. Now the application of how you do this stuff, that's the tricky part.
Mm.
So.
So you got to eat less, right? Oh,
Well,
well,
so I want to say fewer calories because sometimes people actually eat more food if they trade things like, if you don't eat the French fries from McDonald's, but you make a, I don't know, potato dish at home, you're probably saving a ton of calories, but getting more food volume. So,
now this is not one of my questions that I was going
yep,
to ask, but I had to throw it out there, right? Because once again, we're talking about the myth of
yep,
nutrition.
yep, yep.
Can anybody not work out, change their diet, and still lose weight?
Of course, yeah. You don't have to work out. Like working out, like think about nature, right? Like there's animals in nature and humans in nature that will lose weight when they have dietary changes. They might not work out, like the starving deer in the woods. They're not doing push-ups and running. Well, they're running, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you don't have to work out to lose weight. It's a great bonus and it's a great way to be healthy and retain muscle. And that's one of the biggest things I want to emphasize when people say, I want to lose weight. I just want to lose weight. I say, well, you don't want to lose weight. You want to lose body fat and you want to retain muscle. You retain muscle by eating protein and resistance training. So people don't just want to lose weight. I mean, some people do, but I don't think they want to do that, lose the muscle, and then have a lower metabolic rate in the process.
So I think you said the key word here, Mike, right? Weight and body fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I try to talk to our members about this all the time because they're so concerned about
Yeah.
the weight, and I try to tell them your weight will fluctuate,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Especially for women. But you mentioned the body fat percentage. Now, could you please um, kind of dive into that a little bit more, like the difference between weight and body fat percentage?
Yeah, well, so weight is everything. Weight could be body fat, muscle, water. It could be water retention. It could be water loss. It could be bone. It could be organ. It could be everything. Fat loss is what most people are looking for. Because it's less, it's just one thing versus many things, which is weight loss, you're going to see it move slower. Now, you should, if your goal is to lose weight, which is lose fat, you should see scales move. So, like if your scale is stuck for many, many weeks, you're probably not in the right calorie range. So that's like the pinpoint. And I see, like, I'm in the Orange Theory Facebook group, like the big group. I see people all the time. They're like, I've been working out for 6 weeks. I haven't lost a pound. And people say, keep going, keep going. And I say, wait, you might be heading down the wrong road. Let's make sure you're eating the right amount, because you might just be heading down the wrong road longer if you listen to all these people. I'm telling you to reassess what's happening, because you're human and you might accidentally be eating more than you realize.
Yes.
Find that. And that's not the answer everyone wants. The answer everyone wants is to be told, keep it up, buddy. And my answer is, don't keep it up if you're doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
Find out what's going on and change directions.
Great answer,
Yeah.
Mike. So how does sugar affect our bodies, and what are some myths related to sugar consumption?
Yeah, sugar's a funny one. It's more controversy coming. Sugar is not the devil that people think it is. It is just a nutrient. It is just energy. Pretty much everything we eat that is carbohydrate is converted to glucose and used for energy. So sugar is a
Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't really
yeah,
cut you off.
yeah.
Say that one more time. Sugar is transferred
So it's
into.
going to convert to glucose and be energy. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it's a gummy bear or a strawberry. Now, I'm not saying these foods are the same, because strawberries digest slower. They have other vitamins and minerals in it. Sugar might just be straight sugar. That's all it is. But if we're talking about energy and health, it's not just down to a single nutrient like sugar. It's our overall lifestyle. So sugar gets a lot of a bad reputation, just like because it's a carb, just like carbs do, because it's in a lot of the foods that people tend to overeat. The cupcakes, the sodas, the sugary coffees, things like this. So people like to always blame, they always pick a villain, right? In the nutrition and fitness space. They say it's this, it's this, it's this. Well, we don't need villains. We need to understand context and nuance of this stuff. So people can be absolutely healthy if they have sugar. They just shouldn't eat all these foods that have sugar that cause them to be in caloric surpluses.
Mm,
So it's not that someone isn't unhealthy or carrying a bunch of excess body fat just because it's sugar. It's because it's the calories that are in a lot of foods that have sugar. So, yeah, there's documentaries about it, and there's the book about it, and there's all this like rubbish about sugar, because people want to pick a villain instead of say, how do I live a healthy lifestyle but still have this stuff?
mm.
I mean, you saw my wife's baking. Like, you've
Right,
seen stuff.
sure.
Dude, sugar. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna, cookies are baking. I smell them now. I'm gonna eat them. And I'm not gonna feel bad. And I don't want people to feel bad about this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what the nutrition and fitness industry does. It makes people feel like crap for eating a nutrient that isn't some whole food. Like, obviously, those things should be the foundation of your eating, but you should never think that a little bit of sugar or even a lot of sugar in a healthy lifestyle is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, there's diabetics and things like that, but the average person, it's not going to be a problem.
You you bring up a great point, Mike, because I think the relationship that we have is super important. The
Yeah,
relationship that you have with
right.
food, I think can make or break your fitness journey.
Yep.
Uh,
That's everything, man. And that was something I was so proud of. We improved people's relationship with
mm,
food.
mm,
Like, that's huge, because there's so many people that they want to have a cookie, but they don't have the cookie because they heard it's a bad food. And I'm like, it just it just has more calories than something else and doesn't have the nutrients that a salad will have. If you get those nutrients in other places and you have the calorie allotment for the cookie, eat the cookie and move on and enjoy life,
mm.
because life's too short to not have a cookie or Swedish fish or whatever it is you want.
You know, it's we got to tweak that. Life is too short not to have the cookie. You're talking about the sweetest fish and the gummy bears, which are my favorite
Yep,
snack,
yep.
by the way, Mike. I love me the sweetest fish, okay? I hope my doctor's not watching this, because she wouldn't be too crazy.
Well, then if she gets upset at that, she needs to update her nutritional foundation,
Yes.
because these things are not bad and we're finding this out. And I love that. I love that people are realizing that it's our health is not coming down to single nutrients. These things just don't matter.
Well, you also said the gummy bear
Mm-hmm.
and the strawberry. You didn't say they were the
Right.
same, but you get sugar from both. The
Right.
gummy bear may have like other things in it,
Yeah.
but it's almost
Yeah.
the same, I
I
guess.
mean, in terms of like what it's going to convert in the body as
Yeah.
energy, yeah. And this again is like, how can you say that? How can you say it's not the same? It's just the end result is the same.
Mm,
Obviously, the strawberry comes with more nutrients. The gummy bear doesn't. It digests quicker. But if I have an athlete that says, Mike, I need to run my best race ever, and it's a long race, I'm going to say, don't put strawberries in your pocket, put gummy bears in your pocket because you're going to absorb that a lot faster than the strawberries.
yeah. Meaning
Um,
you're gonna get that energy
yep.
quicker in
And
your.
remember what's in the strawberries is fiber. They're going to digest a lot slower. So yes, they are a healthier food. They have more nutrients, but that doesn't mean they're the right food for everyone in the right moment or in a specific moment.
Mike, you're dropping some
Yeah.
gems. All right. So are gluten-free diets necessary for everyone, or is it a myth that
Yeah. You know my answer, right? No. If you have celiac disease or intolerances to gluten, yes, avoid it. If you're the average person who does not, enjoy that bread, enjoy that pasta. You are fine.
yes.
Why is there
All right.
books about this stuff? People just wanted to make money. That's it. They just wanted to sell some books and scare everybody.
Next question. Are detox diets really effective, or is it a misconception that they cleanse our body? Detox, because
Yeah.
2024 is coming.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
And
Yeah. It's I'm not even officially in the industry anymore and I'm stressed out about it because I know all my buddies are going to be dealing with it. So detoxes, you have a liver and kidneys which detox your system. These detoxes, a lot of times they're just someone created a program that is extreme caloric restriction, maybe just requires you to drink these things. You're going to lose a crap ton of weight. You are not going to lose a crap ton of fat
mm,
because they're just shedding you of water weight. And this is why like usually they're lower carb diets will produce faster initial fat loss because carbs bring in water weight, which is not a bad thing. It's just inherent carbohydrate.
mm,
So when people cut carbs or do detoxes like that, they're like, wow, I lost so much weight. It's like you just sucked all the glycogen, the energy out of your muscles and your body.
mm.
That's where that weight went. So now you're just not going to perform well. So I don't think anybody should be messing with them. They're borderline dangerous, at best, just a waste of money. Yeah.
Great. Um, how does protein intake impact muscle building, and what are some myths associated with protein-rich diets? I know we talked about
Yeah.
it a little.
Yeah. A lot of people think protein damages kidneys. The results show, or the research shows, that is not a fact. High protein diets don't affect kidneys, assuming you don't have kidney disease or any, pre-existing conditions. The average person can go high protein. Now, high protein is obviously subjective. What does high protein mean, or what does the average person need? Usually, and this might be like a number to remember, zero point 0.7 grams per pound of body weight is like a good sweet spot. Now you can go above it, you can go below it, but it seems like for most people that's fine. So 100-pound person, which is probably not many adults, 70 grams of protein. So double that. If you're 200 pounds, 140 grams ish. So it doesn't, a lot of people used to think it was 1 pound of protein per body weight, per pound of body weight. That for most people is probably too much. You don't need that. If you like it, cool. It's just more expensive calories. You don't need that
Mm,
much. So there's like a lot of misconceptions about protein though, with like some people think it's bad for their kidneys. Research does not support that. Some people think you don't need that much. Well, you don't need that much to survive. You need that much to thrive. So
mm,
the numbers I said, the zero point 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, that's what will help you build or retain muscle. That will help you stay full. which is huge on especially a fat loss diet. So like if you're going on a fat loss diet and that diet does not encourage you to eat enough protein or higher than the RDA amounts, which are the amounts to tell you to survive, you're going to lose muscle and you're going to be hungry, and that's not what you want on a fat loss diet. So protein is your friend.
Right. And when it comes to muscle building, they
Yeah.
say want to build muscle, you got to consume more protein, right? Especially if you're weightlifting. And I've experienced this myself. I remember we were doing the transformation challenge back in January, and I was lifting
Yeah.
heavy, but I wasn't consuming enough protein. So
Yeah.
see my muscle go up. It wasn't until I started to consume between 160 and 200 grams of protein,
Right.
I really see the difference. But consuming that amount of protein, I also had to be lifting. Um, I don't want to say heavy, but I had to be lifting.
Yeah.
And I will also say this, Mike, it's difficult because once you start tracking, you're like, oh, I got to eat 160 grams of protein. That's not 160 to 200 grams of protein a day, not easy to
Right.
do.
Right. And that's where the tactics come in. Like protein powders are your best
Yeah.
friend. Start your day early with protein. Um, Understand that beans and peanuts and even a egg is not a very good source of protein because it's not that much per serving.
Mm,
Like egg whites are great, but beans and peanuts, like people are like, oh, it's protein. No, it has protein. It's not a protein. Like the lean meats, the fat-free dairy products like Greek yogurt, skim milk, shrimp, chicken. Oh, that's the proteins. That's what you need. But you need to plan that stuff and always have it cooked and ready because you can't accidentally run into protein out at a convenience store. Like you'll find a protein shake, but like snack foods and quick foods, convenience foods are always carbs and fat. They are not protein.
mm. You can't accidentally run into some.
No. No. And it's more expensive. So if you go to a restaurant and you get a dish that's not protein and you're like, "Hey, can I get a chicken breast on the side?" Like you're gonna have to pay more money for that.
For sure.
Like
And
carbs and fat are cheap. So
the meal prepping is important.
yeah.
I mean, just personally for me, if I don't meal prep, if I don't have my
Yep.
meal the night before and I go to work or whatever, it's a free for all,
Right.
you know, uh, especially if I get hungry, right? If I
Yeah.
get hungry, then all bets are off. Okay. It's like I'm
Right.
going to the nearest place so I can, because I'll tell you, there's something when you're hungry, and
Yeah.
I'll just speak for myself.
Your inhibitions and your willpower are lowered. And again, this is not your fault. This is just how the brain works.
Yeah.
Not
So,
many people are going to sit there and say, let me go cook a chicken while I'm hungry when I could push a couple buttons on my phone and get anything I
yeah.
want. It's just not going to happen. That's why I tell people like traditionally people meal prep on like Sundays, but I say do another prep on
Mm,
Thursday
mm,
because that will get you through the weekend.
mm.
When do people usually make mistakes on their diets? The weekend, right? They as part of that is because they have no food made. So have food made,
You know,
right?
that's such a good
Yeah.
point. I'll say, Mike, because even for myself, I will definitely meal prep on Sunday. But then by the time Friday gets here,
You're
I don't get
done.
a plan whatsoever. And it's kind of like, oh, I worked so hard during the
All
week
right.
and I worked out and I ate good. I can indulge a little bit,
Yeah.
which is kind of productive if you're, you know, training for a marathon or if you
Yeah.
have a of losing weight.
Right. The weekends ruin progress for people. It's just
Mm,
how it goes. Yeah.
the weekends
Yeah.
ruin because then you come Monday, you try to hit the reset button. You may do good for
Yeah.
those 5 days or those
And you
4.
just maintain. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So is it true that late night eating leads to weight gain, or is that a myth?
So it only leads to weight gain if it's more calories than you need. So you can eat up if you go to bed at 11 o'clock, you could eat at 10:55. But if it's too many calories, then it will lead to weight gain. So
Mm.
just because it's eating late does not mean it will add extra pounds or make you like stall. The issue, and my theory on why this is such a popular myth, is because when do most people eat dinner? 6, 7, 8 o'clock.
Yep.
So what happens after dinner on those times? All the snacks, all the extra calories. That's the stuff that's causing weight gain. It's not because it's eaten after 8. It's
Mm.
because it's excess calories. That's it.
Now, I
Yeah.
would say there's a theme. There's a theme
Yeah.
to this episode, Mike, and it's about the calorie
Right.
intake. Okay.
People don't want to hear that. It's not a popular thing anymore. People think, oh, it's not calories. It's calories. It's just we don't know that we're eating too much, like or drinking too much. That's
So you have to stay within your, you said caloric intake,
Yeah.
right? And you have 24 hours to consume
Yeah.
whatever, 1,600 calories, 2,000 calories, whatever. And your goal is to stay within that caloric budget that you have. If you go over, you're going to gain weight. Like that's
Yeah.
just
And that's
the,
on average, right? Like if you and this happens with a lot of people, they grossly undereat, say 4 or 5 days a week, and they grossly overeat a couple days a week. And then the average is right here. It's maintenance. So it doesn't matter if you undereat a couple days and then overeat, you're gonna balance out. So you gotta be consistent.
so how does somebody figure out, we might get real technical
Yeah.
here.
Well, I have a very easy way to help people figure this out. There's like ranges. So for most people, take your body weight multiplied by 10. That could be where you should start your calories if you want to lose fat.
Mm,
If you want to maintain 12 to 13, if you want to bulk up 14, 15 times your body weight. These are just general areas. But from the experience of like 50,000-ish people, this is a pretty safe place. So like if someone's 200 pounds, start at 2,000. And a lot of people are weird about it. They're like, whoa, that's too much. And I say, it's not too much. It's just a diet that knows that if you're consistent, you can actually eat more than you
mm,
think. Because
mm,
a lot of these other diets are like, oh, dude, do 1,200 calories. No one's sticking to that. That's too little. You don't need to eat that little.
mm.
And if you go too low, you're going to be sluggish, you're going to be
Yeah,
hungry, you're going to be irritable, and you're probably going to lose muscle.
yeah.
So don't do like just be consistent and eat more food all the time rather than undereat and then overeat accidentally because you're too hungry. So 10 is probably a good spot to start. And if you're really strict and you're like, you're good, like maybe you do have to lower it or maybe you can raise it. But no one knows anything until they start doing it
Yeah.
consistently and then they look at the feedback. And that's where like people used to be like, "Oh, Mike, help me figure out my calories and macros." And I'm like, "I'll help you figure out the starting point." Like that, but that doesn't I'm not too excited about the starting point. I want to see what happens after you
Mm,
do it. Then,
mm.
oh, okay, 2 weeks later, I'm going to raise this, I'm going to lower that, I'm going to help you do that. And that's where the challenge is.
So, what are the myths and truths about effective supplements in improving overall
Um,
health?
the supplement industry is kind of crazy, right? I have a saying about it that's I'll probably mess up my own saying, but the supplement industry is really good at selling people problems they don't
Mm,
have. So
mm,
if you go, I don't know if you got any friends down the street at the vitamin shop, but there's a lot of stuff there that just doesn't need to exist. But it's telling you, if you read the label, you're like, wow, I got that problem. Oh
mm,
man, I got that problem too. And it's like most people don't have these problems. So like you could probably get most of what you need from
mm,
food,
mm.
eating mostly nutrient dense whole foods. But like sports performance stuff like whey protein, creatine, those are pretty good things. Some people like fish oils and magnesium, and one of the big ones, especially in our area, because it's about to get dark out at 5 p.m., is vitamin D. We don't get outside enough, so those could be useful. But question like this is good for the doctors that like people go to because they might know exactly what people are deficient in. So these are just general like issues that people might face.
What about superfoods? What are your thoughts on superfoods?
So
Is there a myth? Or
yeah, so superfoods are one of those things. There's this term called the health halo effect. It's like all these buzzwords around foods that make us think they're better for us, like the gluten frees or the non GMO or the organic or the superfood. According to the research and the science and all the studies, there's no meaning behind that. So, yeah, if something is like superfood, it's probably just
mm,
marketing. It's probably just it's probably just making you think, "Ooh, this is healthy." And don't get me wrong, it probably is healthier than the McDonald's burger, but there's a lot of these foods like these acai bowls and
right,
stuff. They can have tons of calories in them, but people don't think of that because they're like, "Oh, superfood, healthy, blah
right.
blah blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you got your vitamins, but you also got a crap ton of calories." So
So what are your thoughts on organic food?
again, it does not seem to matter.
Mhm.
And I'll say, if you do not believe me and you are okay with spending a little bit more money, by all means, make that personal choice. I know I literally bet my life on it after learning that it is not worth the additional cost.
Mm. Yeah, I will tell you, like a bag of organic grapes could be like $15,
Yeah,
and you could just get
right,
grapes, and they'll be like,
right.
you
And
know,
this is do we really think that's going to be the difference between health and illness? No. I think regularly spending $15 on grapes will be worse for your health long term than, the regular version. Yeah.
let's talk about caffeine and
Yeah.
its effects on the body and some myths about it. So you say earlier you talked about you may have like a cup of coffee before you hit the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. So coffee, it's fine. It's something that's very beneficial for most people. It basically just blocks one of the receptors that gets the caffeine will block one of the receptors that causes tiredness. So your body's like, yeah, I'm not tired. There is a myth about the diuretic effect of coffee, meaning if you have coffee, you're going to dehydrate yourself because you're going to go to the bathroom more. That has been found to not be the case because the water content in most people's coffee is well above the amount they'll lose from urination. So if you're worried that you have a coffee and you're going to be dehydrated, that's probably not the case. Now, there is a point of diminishing returns where if you have like 10 cups of coffee, you're probably going to be, you know, you probably should not do that, right? I think that goes without saying. But people shouldn't fear coffee or caffeine. Obviously, there's amounts, and it's a personal amount, like how much is probably not healthy or dangerous. But we're talking very high amounts for most people. So
All right,
yeah, don't worry about coffee.
you good if you got
Yeah,
coffee. It's not gonna
yeah.
kill. Let's talk.
But can I talk about the theme of the show?
Yeah, yeah.
So the calories, right? It's very common because when I was running the business, a lot of times I was working at Starbucks and I'm very observant with like how people eat, right? I'm not judgy. I recommend people do whatever they want. But there's a lot of people that get coffees that are basically like cupcakes in a cup, right? Caffeinated cupcakes. There's so many calories in some of these coffees that I just want people to remember that there's a lot of extra sugar, a lot of extra cream, a lot of syrups and stuff like that. So when I talk about like coffee is not a problem, it's usually like the black coffee or the very like moderate coffees, not like the Starbucks like crazy stuff.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You can
Yeah.
you can drink your calories. Let's be clear.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that's common. People say, Mike, I don't eat anything. I said, well, what did you drink? You were drunk all weekend. There's calories. Yeah. Like, come on. And then what happens when you
Carbs.
drink? You start eating stuff you didn't. Oh, I didn't eat that. Yes, you did. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about processed food. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this because my
Yeah.
favorite fast food restaurant is Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Now, is all processed food unhealthy for you? And are
No.
there any exceptions to this myth?
No. So I'm gonna toss back a quick question to you. Is everyone named Mike a jerk?
No.
No, right? Maybe some Mikes are jerks, right? That's processed food. Some processed food is probably not the best for you.
Mm.
but processed is it's too broad of a definition. So like if I buy a chicken and I cut the chicken, I have processed that food.
Mm,
So there is a misconception about processed food being inherently bad. The issue is with processed food, it's usually like hyper palatable, like just delicious. So when this hyper palatable, overly or ultra processed food is being eaten, it's a lot easy to overeat, a lot easier to overeat. No one overeats chicken and broccoli. Many people overeat potato chips and stuff like that. So that's where you need to think about it. So a good rule of thumb is think about how much weight this food has per serving of calories. So like chicken for 200 calories is however many grams. 200 calories from potato chips is like nothing. It's like the dust on your fingers after you eat. You know what I mean? So processed food isn't necessarily bad. It's just very, very, very easy to overeat. It hits all the reward centers in the brain. Uh, that's the biggest problem with it.
well,
So
you made a point, and I never thought about it. You know, when I think about processed food, and I'm gonna assume when most people think about processed food, you're thinking about fat food.
fat
Okay,
food.
but
Yeah,
but you just said, like, if I have a breast of chicken and I cut it up, I just process that
yeah,
food.
yeah.
So processed food isn't necessarily bad.
Right.
The type of food that you're eating that really determines if it's bad or not.
Right. That's the biggest thing. Another way to look at it is like think of how many different ingredients are in the food. Not that the ingredients are bad, but that's how processed it might be. And
Mm.
that means it might not be as filling or have like moderate calories. Like the more ingredients, the more it's probably delicious and easier to overeat.
Now, is it a myth that, you know, a lot of times, like when you consume processed food or fast food, it makes you more hungry?
So I I mean it that's a very personal thing. Like it could make you not technically more hungry. It can just make you want more. Which
Mm,
again is probably semantics, right? Whether I'm hungry or not, the fact is I want to eat more. So yes, if you have some of this food, you're probably going to want more because it's so damn good.
mm.
So it's not like this crazy thing going on in your head. It's that, yeah, this food is good. And your brain is like, yo,
I
have more good food. This is
want more,
delicious. Yeah, more. Why would I want one cookie? I want seven
right?
cookies.
And I
Your brain doesn't do that with chicken breast, right?
uh, 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 I guess moderation is also important,
Yeah.
right?
And you work these things in if you know, like, all right, I have 2,000 calories and however many grams of fat and carbs, I can work in three cookies. So
Mm.
you budget it, just like if you want to buy a new pair of sneakers, and but you have like your electric bill coming up. You're like, all right, cool. I gotta be good here. I can't get two pairs of shoes. I gotta get one. I'll allocate some of my paycheck to that, and then I'll pay my other bills with that. Food is the same. It's the same
You
thing.
look at it as a budget. You have a
Yeah.
to work. And you can consume all your 1,500 calories in this one
Yeah.
meal, or
Right.
spread it out during the day. All right, Mike, we're coming down the stretch. Since we're talking about eating, uh, let's talk about the frequency of eating, and I guess the amounts that you eat. And like a lot of people say, oh, you eat more but eat less and you'll lose weight.
Yeah,
What
so like the old school thought of like frequent meals will make you lose more fat because your body's burning more energy to process the
there
meals.
you go.
So yes, you can burn more calories through the thermic effect of food, but that doesn't translate to body fat lost because there's like ping ponging with the nutrients that go on. So like if you're burning more now, you'll burn less later. So that has shown not to matter. So which is funny because like people think intermittent fasting is the new craze, right? That's the best. Hardly ever eating. So what is it? This camp is saying eat often. This one's saying don't hardly ever eat. You know what the reality is? Neither of those matter. The total in the day is what matters. So, and this is, and like, it's funny because I get pushback about this stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying to make your life easier. If you have 2,000 calories to eat, if you want to eat two 1,000 calorie meals, cool. If you want to eat four 500 calorie meals, cool. You do what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah, there's no extra benefit to eating often. Like, it just might be a bigger pain in the butt for most people.
But once again, you have
Yeah.
a certain amount of calories you're allotted to, and you need to stick within
Yep.
that budget, and more than likely you'll see the results that you want. All right. Uh, last question. Last question. How does hydration impact overall health, and what are some myths about the types of beverages that contribute to proper hydration?
Yeah, I mean, hydrate, like, I forget the exact percentage of your body that's water, but it's a significant portion. Yeah, so it goes without saying that proper hydration is important, but hydration isn't just water, especially for the endurance athletes. Like, there are electrolytes like sodium and calcium and things like that, potassium that you need to worry about. So it is not uncommon to hear about like endurance athletes drinking lots of water and like needing to go to the hospital because their sodium levels are trashed.
Mm,
So, but for the average person, like there's like a rule of thumb that if your urine is like clearish and not dark yellow, you're probably hydrated enough. And there are a lot of ways to get hydration. Like someone will say like a Diet Coke isn't okay. It is because it's mostly water. Just
mm,
like a coffee, it's mostly water. Um, I'm not saying that you should drink nothing but those things, but technically speaking, these things are mostly water.
mm.
Things like watermelon and lots of fruits and other fruits and vegetables. These can hydrate you. I have a kid that we just potty trained, crushed watermelon. Guess what happened? Had an accident.
Right.
She didn't even realize it because she had so much extra water than normal. So there's a lot of people like in my coaching days when they'd be like, I'm just crushing water all day. I have to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes. I say, you're drinking too much. Like, cool, you're getting a lot of steps, but there's no reason for you to drink that much. If your urine is crystal clear, you're probably drinking too much.
Mm.
But a lot of people have trouble with drinking enough water. And have one of these around all the
Right.
time. There's like even tricks, like people will put like rubber bands on it and they'll take one off every time they finish it. So it's just like one of the jokes I always had because we had a lot of clients that were like, "How do I drink more water?" And I'm like, I would take videos and I'd be like, "You just do that all day." Yeah. But it's funny, right? Like, someone was probably like, "Oh, Mike's one of those this mic is one of those jerk mics." But no, I try to keep it lighthearted and simple and attainable for most people. And I think, my brand as a nutrition guy was like, I'm gonna be straight up, I'm gonna give you the good information, and I'm gonna try to help you do it very easily because life is already difficult. You don't need this to be crazy too.
Mike, I really appreciate you. I got one more question for you.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have to set up another
yeah,
interview to dive into this, but you mentioned it several times, so
yeah.
I want to get your feet on it. How important is the psychology when it comes to nutrition?
It's like everything, man. The mindset, the stories we tell ourselves, the baggage we bring along from all these other diets, the stresses, the support systems, setting up our food environment. That's like the biggest part. The information, like I've given enough information here where most people could just go crush it, but they're still going to struggle because it's not as easy as just choosing to do it. There's a
Mm,
lot of stuff going on up here. Some people have it easier than others. Like the single mom that works two jobs, she's going to struggle. The stresses and the time frames and stuff, that's not easy for people. So the psychology and the stories we tell ourselves and the stresses and all that stuff have to be addressed and managed, and that's what a lot of these plans don't do. They just say, "Here's the information. See you later."
right.
And you got to talk to these people about life because that's where it all comes from.
Mike, did I forget anything? Did I leave anything out? Is there anything that you
I don't know.
elaborate on before we end the show?
No, I mean that's it. Like don't overthink this stuff. Like everybody needs to like my general like overall philosophy is everybody needs to eat the right amount of calories for their goals If they want to lose fat, they need a deficit. If they want to just maintain and perform well, eat at maintenance. If you want to build muscle, eat at a slight surplus. Eat enough protein, which is like 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. Make your meals mostly nutrient dense, so foods that are like limited in ingredients. Again, not that those ingredients are bad, it's just that they're often the more hyper palatable foods that we overeat that have lower nutrient profiles. Go for walks, run, lift, row, sleep good, reduce stress, and just have a good time. That's it. Like this industry, especially nutrition, they just want to confuse the hell out of everybody. And it's so much simpler than people think. So
Mike, thanks for keeping it real with us today.
cool.
How can people reach you if
I
they
don't
have?
know. I'm on Instagram here. People can send me messages. Yeah. And I'm around town walking around.
Awesome. Before we go,
Yeah.
you already know, guys, what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. There's only two type of people in this world: those that make it happen, those that make excuses. Your body's a slave to the mind, and your goal doesn't care about how you feel, doesn't care about the weather, doesn't care about your situation or your circumstances. The only thing your goal cares about is results. And in closing, I'm going to share this with you. Nobody, and I mean nobody, owes you anything. You owe it to yourself. And with that, Mike, appreciate you. You guys know how to contact Mike if you have any questions. Super excited to have you on the show today, Mike. You dropped some golden nuggets. We now have the blueprint.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that being said, Mike, I got more life. Come get you some.
Thank you, G. It was fun, man. Thank you.
Take care.
All
Thanks.
right. Bye.